there folks, Jason again with part 2 of my Tiger build for Warlord Games Bolt Action World War II war game. And as you can see here, it's finished, and I have to say I'm really pleased with how it came out. Let me just do a little bit of zooming in here really quick, and with my kind of cheap light box, kind of do a turn on the model, and then I'll talk about some of the things that I did to some of the techniques that I used, and maybe some places that others can go to if they're looking to get into the hobby or they're maybe not familiar with doing a lot of World War II kind of historical miniatures. So I mentioned before that I was looking to other places for inspiration. What I ended up going with was some resources online, and I just picked a particular, the Germans used a heavy tank battalion, heavy tank company, and I just took some ideas off that. I saw a picture online and I ended up going with it. So I'm really pleased with how it came out. If you look at the last video, the camouflage, and then so from this point, from the point of the last video, let me just walk through some of the steps I took. And this is also going to be a kind of a mini review of a couple different products, including most notably Vallejo's. Where do we put here? There it is. Let me zoom out a little bit. Weathering set for yellow or gray vehicles. And again, this is the accompaniment to the Dunkelgelb dark yellow primer set, which I was really pleased with. I'm not sure I'd pay for it again, but now that I know the colors I want to do, but it was a great starting set. And I have to say, so the weathering set, maybe not quite as good. It was all right, but I don't think it's as valuable as the dark yellow. Let me tell you why. So what you get with this set is probably one of the best colors I found. Again, it's 8-ounce bottles of Vallejo paint, and what they want you to do is you just follow the steps. Sorry folks, I'm still trying to learn this a little bit. Let me put that in front of the tank. Here we go. So you get this German camouflage black brown, which essentially, you know, as an aside, is a great paint. I will be buying a lot more of this. But they use that for the tracks, and then you combine these two colors. There's a bluff, and I think that this is a whole red, and that's what you kind of paint the tracks. You thin it down a lot. And they also give you a wash for yellow vehicles, and then a wash for the gray vehicles, pigment binder, and then some dust that you spray on or you brush on with a heavy brush. And it does go through much like the other one, and it gives you a series of directions that you do. I just didn't think that this one wasn't quite as intuitive to me. And like in one case here, they say once you've painted the tracks this German camouflage black brown, apply a well-thin layer of buff and whole red. Now I did this and ended up looking kind of pinkish. And because the pictures here aren't that great, it was hard for me to determine whether I'd mixed the paint properly. So whereas the other series is kind of idiot-proof, this one you had to take kind of a leap of faith, and I wasn't 100% happy. I wasn't sure what they were going for. And maybe it's because this is a Spanish company and their English may not be the best, or they didn't have a lot of room here to go through things. I would have liked to see more or better pictures. That could be just me, but that was me. So I mean, it's all right. It kind of walks you through things, but I think there's better ways of doing things. The pigment was good. The pigment binder was okay, although I'm still trying to get the hang of using it. I would say anybody who's going to paint German vehicles or tracks at all, this German camouflage black brown was awesome. But let's talk about some of the one of my other best sources that I used, and I would recommend others use because, or if you're so inclined at least, you'll have to pardon me, it's on my my iPad. So I went ahead and I picked up this. Now I had subscribed to this magazine. It's put out by MIG. I think it's put out by MIG. They do a lot of stuff with MIG. But essentially it's a great place to go through and find examples. Again, historical. I mean, you could probably use this if you want to do 40K or other things too. But for historical miniatures, I mean, these guys are insane, and girls, theoretically. But anyways, I went with this one, and you have to pardon me while I scroll back through the piece. But they give you a lot of great ideas, and frankly, a lot of ways to use. I mean, because we've all gone to model shops, and you like got the wall of pigment and weathering and oil and streaking grime and fuel stains and simulated water and all this stuff. And for the uninitiated, like myself, and probably like some of you, it's tough to kind of noodle out where you want to go. And this one, it turns out that they had kind of a walkthrough of, there we go, of the construction of a building of a larger Tiger 1 tank. And so I don't have a lot. I mean, this is mostly all, I'm sorry, it isn't MIG, it's AK Interactive stuff as well. But they went through some of the steps, and some of the things I followed and some of the things I didn't. It's also, I mean, this is a showpiece model. What mine is going to be is for the tabletop. But it was definitely very helpful to kind of see how other people would build vehicles, and it gave me some ideas for this. So let's just walk through really quickly what did I end up doing. This isn't going to be a how-to. If people have questions, of course, I'm happy to answer them, but that isn't my intention here. So the last we saw, I just camouflaged it. The one thing that the Vallejo weathering set did give was essentially a wash for German yellow vehicles. And it brought out this really... I was worried that the yellow was going to be a little bit too strong, too yellow, essentially. And I wanted something that's not kind of... Move this up a little bit. Not beat to death, but I wanted it to look dirty. And the Vallejo wash did a great job. So it brought it down. It made it look a little bit more greenish, I guess, or highlighted some of the camouflage that I put in there. So that was good, and I would recommend that for other people. Then it was just putting on decals, like on the turret here, which I left loose. I found a tank online with this similar paint scheme, so I picked, Tiger number 312. And then after that, it was just using mud and some of the pigment. So I ended up using some of, that's not going to focus, Forge World's Light Earth and Dark Earth, and then MIG, and that's where, sorry, I got confused earlier, but MIG, let's see if I can find it here. Sorry, I'm in my storage closet, not as prepared as I would like. MIG came out with European dry mud, and it's kind of light colored, but it does dry darkly. So what I did, and what I've kind of picked up on from reading some of these weathering magazines, is it's a good idea to kind of layer on your pigments and other things. So what you can see here, let me see if I can get the vehicle, is this is bring it back. There we go. So this is a nice mix of light, dark, and kind of middle. Man, the camera's freaking out over this. Mid-tones, and I think it does a really good job of not making it look uniform. Like, you've got mud that has dried for longer, mud that might still be a little bit wet. The instructions kind of show you to jam pigment in under the, where as the tracks spin, it gets chucked up underneath the bottom here of the vehicle, to put mud where kind of rooster tails up the back. So I did that, and a lot of the pictures here, so these are the exhaust. They actually added these covers on because the previous exhausts were lighting up at night and they were seen. So these are covers, but a lot of these ended up being rusty. I think I might have over rusted this a little bit, and all I did with this was Forge World's Orange Rust, there we go, and let that dry a couple different times, put in some of the Dark Earth to it, and made some variations in the colors. And then Vallejo included this nice kind of earth and oxide pigment color. And all you did is kind of dust the whole vehicle with that, let it get into the cracks, and then you spray so you can spray it down with matte varnish or the pigment fixer, and it lightened the color back up again. So again, this kind of driving wind, you know, you expect tanks that were out for a long time just to get dusty. I think it looks pretty good. And so after varnishing all this stuff down, putting the I put the decals down first, then varnishing this stuff down. Then I went on to, and I had done some sponge scratches and things on the turrets, like the turret hatches and things. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's going to show up or not. Around the top, like where hatches and stuff would be open a lot, the paint would come off. I'll zoom out a little bit. And again, guys, I apologize. I'm still kind of getting the hang of doing these videos. I feel like they're running too long. But nevertheless, so after I had that done, and then I wanted to go through, and I used AK Interactive, which a lot of other people have used, or have talked about, streaking grime. Yeah, streaking grime, and then fuel stains on the back, just to make it look dirty. And I went around all the patch line, all the lines in the hull. You can kind of see it in the front here. So you've got some here, just to add some depth and where water would accumulate. Now there's a lot of other products. I kind of played around with these. And the other thing that most of us GW folks are going to have to get used to is historical guys use a lot more enamels, which I'm not really that familiar with. And there's all kinds of videos out on the internet on how to use enamels, but you can't just like stick your brush in it, wipe it off, and then stick it in water to clean your brush. You have to use white spirits, alcohol, things like that. So again, another opportunity for me to kind of learn a new technique. But you can see, let's see if this will show up. Yeah, okay. So all the lines here in these hatches, like you can see there's a little bit of shine there. Those are the gas tanks. And so you'd have a little bit of gas spillage there, fuel spillage. Just kind of went through, and it looks a little dirty, a little aged. I didn't want it super chipped up. I didn't put any obvious impact marks on the side. But in some places, especially for the decals, I took the streaking grime and just gave it a good wash, because they did show up super stark white, which I didn't think that they would look like. Obviously, I went against doing the whitewash because I wanted this one to kind of focus a little bit more on technique of just painting the German yellow. So that's the end of the build. I am really pleased with how this turned out. I will probably use a similar technique again in the future. Camera, what are you doing? There we go. I'll use a similar technique in the future. Everything that I used, I would use in terms of individual products. Vallejo paints are outstanding. I'm not the first person to come out and ever say that. So hey, no breaking news there. Would I buy the Vallejo AFV? Would I recommend that others buy the Vallejo AFV set? No. I would say that the Vallejo base color for German dark yellow was outstanding. I don't think the Vallejo set is really necessary. Again, if people are interested, I'm more than happy to put the pigment types and the paint colors out there, and you can duplicate it on your own. I think everybody that's going to do a dark yellow paint scheme on their tank would benefit from that set, but this one, everybody's going to with the exception of the wash in the German camo brown, everybody's going to paint theirs differently. A lot of people just might paint their tracks black or use different kinds of mud. But I think the MIG muds, the AK Interactive streaking grime and fuel stains, I'm going to go out and, when money allows, buy some more, because I want to even have more effects, you know, kind of water pooling up in some places here. And then, you know, you don't really have a lot of gaming magazines for the Games Workshop folks that might be moving over. But look at things like the Weathering magazine, or just your hobbying, like not necessarily the train ones, but the model hobbyists. Those guys, their attention to detail is insane compared to what I'm used to for Games Workshop stuff. So, and this video is obviously kind of focused towards folks like me who are trying to get their head around transitioning away from Games Workshop to historicals. there's plenty of things out there. Take advantage of them so you don't feel quite as lost. I think that's what really helped me with this build, because it can be very imposing to look around and see what other people do and be like, oh, there's no way I could ever do that. I'm not saying that this tank is, you know, the end all be all, but going into it, I didn't think it would come out looking this good, and sometimes it's just kind of following directions. So bottom line, really happy with how the tank turned out. I hope you are too. Would welcome your comments, questions, criticisms, as long as they're constructive. You know, if you want any ideas on what I did, or, you know, I'm more than happy to post up the paint types and everything. But again, I am not a rocket scientist. It took me like 6 hours, 7 hours to do this one tank, which isn't great time-wise. I think I'll get faster in the future. But again, I hope folks find this helpful. Obviously, Warlord Games isn't as popular as 40K, but from a hobby standpoint and, you know, personal gratification, I'm feeling a lot more excited about this stuff than I ever have for Warhammer Fantasy or 40K, because I feel like I'm being challenged more than I ever was in the past. So again, hope you guys are having a great weekend. I'm going to get this video out, and I'm going to try to do another one really quick on a review of a glass case for your model. So hopefully that'll be coming out shortly, because I've got a bunch of boxes from IKEA that my wife's going to start nagging me to unpack. So with that, I'm going to let you guys go. Keep on wargaming.